I'd probably say some shit, which is pretty much what it did, because explaining the whole thing is long. So I'm not going to. I'm just going to be like, basically, I made a comparison, which is a joke, which, I don't feel like getting into the whole thing, but it was like, I basically said something like, this is not what I said verbatim. I'm using an example, like, just for clarification, this is an example. I'm creating a different scenario that follows the same exact, like settings, I guess, what was of what transpired. I guess I don't know. It's weird. It applies. This. Alright, I'm about to say something that I didn't say as an example of what actually happened. So I'm saying some shit like this. This PS5 controller is like an Xbox 360 controller, but like it's like with more modifications. And this nigga Brandon is just like, and this nigga Brandon says something along the lines of, yeah, well, shit, the Nintendo Switch controller, it's got a whole screen on it, so it's better. And I'm like, yeah, but that's a whole console. And he's just like, yeah, but still, like, based off what you just said, the Nintendo Switch would be number one, and the PlayStation controller would be number two, and the Xbox would just be like the Xbox controller would just be all the way down there. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? I made a comparison. You're making a tier list. Those are two different things. And so when I'm trying to explain that shit, this nigga's just like, oh my god, you're doing the most. I'm like, no, 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 no. I understand what you're saying, right? I get what you're saying. And it would have made sense, right? If that's what I meant when I said those things, but you misinterpreted what I said. And so I'm explaining that, and he's just like, oh my goodness, you're being so annoying. Oh my goodness, you're being so annoying right now. And I'm like, I get that you think. I'm like, I get it, right? You started off misunderstanding what I said. So when I put it into perspective, and you brought some other shit up, and I'm like, oh, duh, that's ridiculous. You really can't compare the two. You can't, like, if I give a comparison. Actually, I thought, see, the other example I can use to quickly explain what happened, but the actual situation was just like we're fighting a we're fighting what is it called, a Gravios, and it's a big ass monster, dude. Its leg is like four times the size of your whole body. It's huge, and so he's like, damn, we're getting knocked around and shit, and he's like, damn, why are you being so mean? So I'll make a quick joke. I say, yeah, dude, fighting a Gravios is like fighting. It's like being 6'3", trying to fight a 6'10", 7 foot tall dude. 6'10", or like 7 foot tall dude, and he's just like, you think this thing is 6'10" because he thinks I think that's his actual height or something. Good God, right? And so I'm just like, no, I'm saying like in scale, if you put it in scale to hunters and what they hunt versus their own body size. No, no, not no. If you put it in scale to like hunters and like strength and shit like that, like a monster two times your size, like a Toby Kadachi or some shit like that, that's light work. Like it's light work. But like when it's four times your size, like the Gravios, right? But its legs like four times the size of you. That's like a big ass dude. That's like a normal person fighting a 7 foot tall dude. So I put it into that perspective, and he's just like, the only reason a hunter can fight these things is because they're the main character, and I'm just like, bullshit. Because Olivia can. The Utduna that she fought was literally, it's a monster that is at a higher threat level than the Gravios. Therefore, it's stronger, and it's literally just as big. and it did a whole belly flop on her, and she hit it out the way with her hammer. Hunters in general are strong as shit. So what I'm saying makes sense. And this nigga really said, yeah, but you get it, we're the main character, like, she's not beating something like Vitalis. Like, I knew you were gonna say that. Now look, this is why you need to let me finish. Like, she's fodder. Like, her life is still, like, hanging there, because what is she doing against Vitalis? And I'm like, it's just like, you just, a Fatalis, of course she's gonna die. We're the only ones to ever beat Fatalis. When our hunter slays Fatalis, that is the only time it has literally ever been killed. That is like literally the only time it has ever been slain. Of course, Olivia lost. To give anybody who doesn't know the lore of Fatalis, or a quick little lore from memory, Fatalis pretty much went to war with the most advanced nation in the world and won. And like a night, it burned that whole, you know, burned that whole nation down and walked away. Gravios is just a monster. Like, a Gravios is just a monster. It's not even an Elder Dragon. You literally cannot compare the two. Like, Elder Dragons are already considered to be natural disasters. I told them this. But a Fatalis is pretty much like an omen of death. It's pretty much just like, if a Fatalis is around, that's the end. That's what the Fatalis is. That's why it's the last monster in the game. It's not the last monster for no reason. It literally, there's no stronger monster than that. It's the end. And so, nigga, he gonna tell me, this nigga here is gonna tell me that no. So I tell him that putting the Fatalis next to a Gravios, it's just like, if I were to put that into a real life situation, a hunter versus a Fatalis. He tried to say that the hunter versus Fatalis is more like the a 6'3" dude fighting a 7 foot tall dude. And I'm like, no, it's not. I'm like, that's like a dude trying to fight a building. That's like trying to fight a tornado. So that's what I'm like, because that's be like a normal guy trying to fight a tornado. And he's all like, nah, you see, you're not getting what I'm saying. I'm like, no, nigga, I heard exactly what you said. You don't understand the weight of Fatalis. And so while I'm explaining that to him, he's just like, look. What I'm saying is that the Fatalis, it's the 7-footer, and the Gravios, that's the 6'4", the 6'3" dude. That's the 6'3" guy. And I'm like, you do realize, like, my original point is not which is stronger. It was an example of what hunters fighting a Gravios would be. You see how Fatalis doesn't fit into that situation at all? So, like, based off what he said, he tried to put the hunter, he said the Fatalis is what the 7-footer is, because our hunter is the main character. He's basically saying that our hunter, because they've killed Fatalis before, not this one, I'd imagine. I'm pretty sure he's talking about the hunter in Monster Hunter World, the one that doesn't talk, because these are completely different hunters. So he's pretty much saying the Fatalis is the 7-footer. I'm like, nah. There are plenty of 6'3" guys who can beat a 7-foot tall man's ass. There are plenty of them. Like, he's acting like that's never happened. Yeah, that's most definitely happened. A 6'3" guy can probably beat up a 7-footer guy. You know, if he's a good fighter. The whole thing is that he's just gonna be getting knocked. Like on average, like they just be getting knocked around. It's not the most impossible task. So him going around, like, so I'm just like, nah. So that's why I said it's like no, that's like fighting a like a fucking 20-foot tall person or like a whole building because I'm like Fatalis is like that. That's why we needed a whole thing. That's why we didn't really just run once with Fatalis. There were canonically other hunters in there fighting with us. That's why we went behind the armored shield, because if we were to try and stand and face it head on without that wall, without the crack, like without the armored crack in the side of the wall, we would have just died. There would have been nothing between us. If there was nothing between us and the Fatalis, we die. Even our hunter wouldn't have won that 1v1. That's why the other people who are fighting with us were hiding with us. Because they also helped us defeat it. We canonically still didn't beat it alone. So no, that is not like fighting a 7-foot tall guy. That is fighting a natural disaster. If I were to put into like a normal human scenario, technically since we were able to beat it, that's more like a 5'5" dude. That's like 3 5'5" guys versus like a sumo wrestler. The world champion sumo wrestler, by the way. You just, sure, the guys would probably lose, but give them a few knives and they might be able to kill him. Like, they did. The sumo wrestlers are tough. They're fat and muscle and huge and tall. They're going to absolutely body any normal person who tries it with them. They're not. Like, you could tackle you like a whole 5'5" person could probably tackle their leg and they wouldn't budge. like he just doesn't understand the weight of that. So as I'm explaining that, and then I'm trying to also say, by the way, like it's not a tier list. Like I gave an example. He's trying to say, well, that's not what you said. I'm like, nigga, that is what I said. You finally understood that's what I said. You think I said what you misinterpreted, but that's not what I said. You thought I was putting it on a scale. No, dumbass, I was giving an example of what fighting the Gravios is. That's why we're getting bodied. It was a joke. My good God.